Elizabeth Warren is up for re-election this November, and she's got a candidate, an opponent, a Republican opponent, who is working his tail off to defeat her. He is Geoff Diehl, Republican candidate for the United States Senate in Massachusetts, and he joins us right now. Geoff, thank you, my friend, for taking some time out of your campaigning to join us. I wanted to get you on because, I want to replay it for you right now. That answer of Senator Warren's this morning when she was asked a pretty direct question about Mollie Tibbetts, that young girl in Iowa who was horribly killed by an illegal alien. Let me play this for you again, Geoff, and get your reaction.
I want to get one last question in here because it is a story, a very important story in the news. It has to do with Mollie Tibbetts, the young woman in Iowa who was murdered, her body believed to be found yesterday. A person has been charged with it. This person is an undocumented immigrant. Mike Pence and the president have suggested the immigration laws need to be stronger so that people like this man who was accused of this murder were not in the country. Your reaction?
You know, I'm so sorry for the family here, and I know this is hard, not only for the family, but for the people in her community, the people throughout Iowa. But one of the things we have to remember is we need an immigration system that is effective, that focuses on where real problems are.
Hey, Geoff, I find that answer disturbing, but I find it so revealing. She barely talks about Mollie Tibbetts, and she spent almost a minute talking about immigration reform. Your reaction?
Joe, it's tone deaf at best and really very heartless to the family. I have two daughters. I know a lot of people who have learned about what happened are feeling for the family. That should be the first and foremost thing at issue right now. But for her to immediately move to talking about immigration law that allows people to come across illegally, it's just unbelievable. And I want to say something. Kate Steinle, another family who had their daughter, the Steinles had their daughter ripped away from them, and she's talking about babies being taken away from parents at the border. Nothing in comparison to what happened to the Tibbetts family. Today is the 7th anniversary of Matthew Denise, a young man killed in Massachusetts, taken away from his mother, Maureen Maloney, by an illegal immigrant who was here with a criminal background. He should have been deported, was driving drunk, dragged Matthew to his death. Those are the people who are being taken away from their families. And Elizabeth Warren clearly doesn't understand the problems going on with illegals in our country killing people. Instead, she wants to score political points about immigration law for non-citizens and putting them over American citizens.
Geoff, you make a really great point. At the end of her long answer, she said exactly that. She lamented the fact that we're separating babies from their mamas at our border. You say tone deaf. I'm trying to think of a harsher description. She's asked about Mollie Tibbetts, a young girl who will never see her mother ever again, and yet she talks about babies and their mamas at our border. It was just a mind-boggling answer.
Well, Joe, the other thing, too, is this is Elizabeth Warren, who also called for getting rid of ICE. And then she also followed up with that just about a week ago by saying that the entire criminal justice system, including law enforcement officers, are racists. Now, in Massachusetts, we've had 4 officers shot over this last summer. All right. We don't need to criminalize or make police look any worse in her mind. And that's what she's doing, to the point where a fellow a supporter of hers from Cambridge, where she lives, actually put a bounty on ICE officers about a week ago and was arrested. A $500 bounty if somebody would shoot an ICE officer. That's the kind of rhetoric that's coming from Elizabeth Warren that's putting law enforcement at risk, and then also, again, not even caring about a young girl who I think everybody was hoping the same thing, that she was off on some adventure. And now we find out the worst has happened. Somebody who should never have been in this country ended up killing her. And we need to make sure that laws get them out of the country, not, again, what Elizabeth Warren wants to get to, which is open borders and making it so that our public and our families are at risk.
Hey, Geoff, we're told that Massachusetts is a blue state. That's what they keep telling us. But I've got to believe, and I want your reaction to this, the thought of these people in this country illegally and the harm that they can do to Americans, that's got to be an issue of concern even to folks in Massachusetts, isn't it?
Well, first of all, we have a state legislature that tried to enact sanctuary status backdoor through our budget process, which thankfully didn't happen, and I was completely opposed to. I'm currently a legislator there. We also have judges that are putting criminals back on the streets based on immigration status. A guy named Judge Tim Feely of the Salem courts literally put a heroin dealer back on the streets because had he given him jail time, he would have been subject to deportation, and the judge didn't want that to happen. So, unfortunately, lawmakers, judges, and Elizabeth Warren seem to favor the criminal, whereas the average people are against sanctuary status. I've been getting a lot of support, law enforcement endorsement. I've gotten the endorsement of the Boston Herald just this last week. We are going to beat Elizabeth Warren because she doesn't care about the people of Massachusetts. She never did. She wants to run for the White House, and these statements she makes, like today, this tone-deaf statement, are all about trying to become the progressive nominee for the 2020 elections. That's not good for America, and it's certainly not good for Massachusetts.
Boy, Geoff, I would, and I can tell you already have, yeah, you certainly get the impression when you listen to your opponent that she already fancies herself a candidate for president. Again, if I'm a voter in Massachusetts, that wouldn't sit real well with me.
No, Joe, and the thing is, she actually has an unfavorability rating that's through the roof. 98% of people in Massachusetts know who she is, but most of them just want to know who their opponent is, her opponent is, and that's why for the next 2 months, I've been traveling around. I'm in my RV right now, traveling from event to event to make sure that we inform everybody about this campaign. We've been doing it for over a year, and we've had the support of Herman Cain. Sean Spicer's been here, Governor Paul LePage. So we have support to make sure that Elizabeth Warren is out of the Senate and never makes another offensive comment like she did today.
Hey, Geoff, quickly, as you do travel that state, what issue most concerns voters, do you find?
Well, obviously, secure border. That's why I went down to El Paso to make sure that we finish building the wall. We stop the drug trafficking, the human trafficking. Massachusetts spends almost $2 billion a year out of our budget to cover the cost of those here illegally. That's money that could go towards veterans, towards keeping our schools safe, towards making sure that people can retire when they want to. And for Elizabeth Warren, she wants the open borders. We have a mayor his name's Joe Curatone from Somerville, that's declared the city sanctuary status, our Boston mayor sanctuary status. We have the citizens, though, that don't want that to happen. And so that's why this race is so important, not just for the country, but for Massachusetts, to send a message. Law enforcement matters, and that's what I am standing for.
Hey, Geoff, my friend, good luck. Keep going, brother. Keep going. Keep pushing. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
A good day for justice yesterday. I will explain.